Maybe I could get both the Delangelo kids to jump with me into the ocean. If we survive the fall, I could use the water to protect us. I'd done things like that before. If my dad was in a good mood and listening, he might help. Maybe. I would kill you before you ever reached the water, Dr. Thorne said as if he was reading my thoughts. You do not realize who I am, do you? A flicker of movement behind him, and another missile whistled so close to me that it nicked my ear. Something had sprung up behind Dr. Thorne, like a catapult, but more flexible, almost like a tail. Unfortunately, Dr. Thorne said, you are wanted alive, if possible. Otherwise, you would already be dead. Who wants us? Bianca demanded. Because if you think you'll get a ransom, you're wrong. We don't have any family. Nico and I... Her voice broke a little. We've got no one but each other. Oh, Dr. Thorne said. Don't worry, you little brats. You'll be meeting my employer soon enough. Then you'll have a brand new family. Luke, I said. You work for Luke. Dr. Thorne's mouth twisted with distaste when I said the name of my old enemy, a former friend who tried to kill me several times. You have no idea what is happening, Perseus Jackson. I will let the General enlighten you. You are going to do him a great service tonight. He is looking forward to meeting you. The General? I asked. Then I realized I'd said it with a French accent. I mean, who's the General? Thorne looked towards the horizon. Ah, here we are. Your transportation. I turned and saw a light in the distance, a searchlight over the sea. Then I heard the chopping of helicopter blades getting louder and closer. Where are you taking us? Nico said. You should be honored, my boy. You have the opportunity to join a great army, just like that silly game you play with cards and dolls. They're not dolls, they're figurines, and you could take your great army and... Now, Dr. Thorne warned. You change your mind about joining us, my boy? You will. And if you do not, well, there are other uses for half-bloods, and we may have monstrous mouths to feed. The great stirring is underway. The great what? I asked. Anything to keep him talking while I tried to figure out a plan. The stirring of monsters, Dr. Thorne smiled evilly. The worst of them, the most powerful, are now waking. Monsters have not been seen in thousands of years. They will cause death and destruction, the likes of which mortals have never known. And soon we shall have the most important monster of all, the one that shall bring about the downfall of Olympus. Okay, Bianca whispered to me. He's completely nuts. We have to jump off the cliff, I told her quietly, into the sea. Oh, super idea. You're completely nuts too. I never got the chance to argue with her, because just then an invisible force slammed into me. Looking back on it, Annabeth's move was brilliant. Wearing her cap of invisibility, she plowed into the D'Angelos and me, knocking us to the ground. For a split second, Dr. Thorne was taken by surprise, so his first volley of missiles zipped harmlessly over our heads. This gave Thalia and Grover a chance to advance from behind, Thalia wielding her magic shield, Aegeus. If you've never seen Thalia run into battle, you have never been truly frightened. She uses a huge spear that expands from this collapsible mace canister that she carries in her pocket, but that's not the scary part. Her shield is modeled after one that her dad, Zeus, uses, also called Aegeus, a gift from Athena. The shield has the head of a Gorgon Medusa modeled into the bronze, and even though it won't turn you into stone, it's so horrible that most people will panic and run at the sight of it. Even Dr. Thorne winced and growled as he saw it. Thalia moved in with her spear. For Zeus! I thought Dr. Thorne was a goner. Thalia jabbed at his head, but he snarled and swatted the spear aside. His hand changed into an orange paw, with enormous claws that sparked against Thalia's shield as he slashed. If it hadn't been for Aegeus, Thalia would have been sliced like a loaf of bread. As it was, she managed to roll backwards and land on her feet. The sound of the helicopter was getting louder behind me, but I didn't dare look. Dr. Thorne launched another volley of missiles at Thalia, and this time I could see how he did it. He had a tail, a leathery, scorpion-like tail that bristled with spikes on the tip. The missiles deflected off Aegeus, but the force of their impact knocked Thalia down. Grover sprang forward. He put his reed pipes to his lips and he began to play, a frantic jig that sounded like something pirates would dance to. Grass broke through the snow, and within seconds, rope-thick weeds were wrapping around Dr. Thorne's legs and entangling him. Dr. Thorne roared and began to change. He grew larger until he was in his true form. His face was still human, but his body was that of a huge lion. His leather, spiky tail whipped deadly thorns in all directions.